So I want to welcome everyone to episode number 6 of our Trust After Trauma podcast. And today I have a very, very special guest, and we are really in for a treat today. Dr. Kathie Mathis is with us, and I'm going to read her bio, even though her accolades are as long as my body, but we had to condense and bring in the best of everything that she's up to, and I know she's going to be sharing so much with us today, but I just want to share with you who our special guest is. Dr. Kathie Mathis, with over 40 years of experience, is a renowned expert in abuse, trauma, and victimology. Having contributed to over 600 court cases in the US, she's a master trainer educating professionals, including UN psychologists, FBI agents, and educators on the effects of abuse. Dr. Mathis has helped draft over 11 laws, including 3 federal laws, and authored the pioneering book, Emotional Addiction, A Bittersweet Truth, that I just love. Recognized for her contributions, she received an award from a former US president and the FBI director under President Biden for her work with over 30,000 crime victims. A frequent guest on the Dr. Phil Show, she's also a domestic violence consultant for the California Judicial Council and a sought-after keynote speaker. As CEO of the California Judicial Council, as CEO of the California Cognitive Behavioral Institute, Dr. Mathis is dedicated to holding perpetrators accountable and promoting healing for victims, and can be contacted through her website, www.theccbi.com. She's also a Doctor of Divinity, and she's on our executive advisor board for gracesplacefoundation.org, which we are eternally grateful for her wisdom, her counsel, her advice, her heart. And today we are going to be discussing the topic, finding solace and strengthening your relationship with God after trauma. So we want to cordially invite you, Dr. Kathie, for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us this day. And we would love to just hear your voice. And did I get all of those accolades right?
You got them right. Not a problem at all. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast to be able to talk about what I feel is a very, very important topic. And as you know, I'm very passionate about the topic as part of the healing that needs to take place after trauma, and how we rebuild not only our minds, but our bodies and our spirits and souls as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, when we were discussing, what aspect of this, trust after trauma, and how it was that, I mean, we could go into so many different topics together, but I'm really grateful that we chose to really talk about the healing journey, and having God in the center of our lives, and expanding in our faith, and how essentially important that is to our healing journey. And maybe you can share just a snippet or a story of how that came to be for you, when you were first going through your traumatic experience, and just share a little bit of who you are and your heart with us today.
I would be happy to. I want to first start out with, my father was a minister, and my mother should have been a minister, but they wouldn't allow women to be ministers, back in those days. So she ministered in her own way. And so I had 2 models for me on having a spiritual connection and base as a child growing up, um, understanding that religion was what I was born into, but developing the spiritual was way more important than the religion. And having that relationship with my higher power was extremely influential in my own recovery. As some of your listeners might know and others might not, I married a very abusive man. He, during our 10-year relationship, tried to murder me 3 times. And I finally got the message that he was serious about trying to eradicate my life. And so I left him with my daughter, who at the time was 6 years old, and I had no job, I had no income. And it was back in the day where women could not get credit cards without a man signing off for you. And so we were really powerless to be able to have systems in place for us that had us stand on our own 2 feet. And during those really dark times for me, um, I sought God because I had built a relationship with Him throughout my entire life. But I sought my God in a way that was even deeper and stronger because of the traumatic experience I was living through, not only in the relationship, but after I got out of the relationship. And being in a position to have myself to take care of and my 6-year-old daughter to take care of with no money and no income, I was very humbled by having to eat out of trash cans and dumpster diving for food, um, for figuring out creatively different ways to survive. And if it was not for my relationship and my deep trust and faith that there was somebody out there bigger, wiser, stronger, smarter than me, and who put this universe together and who promised me as their child that they would take care of me no matter what, and that I would survive because they had my back, so to speak. um, I would not have made it through those really deep, dark times where I went into a deep depression. I was scared. I had so much fear. I had PTSD from the trauma. And here I'm trying to model for my daughter what a mother does and a woman does to be able to survive all of these life experiences. And she had been part of that as well because she had witnessed it. So I found out during this really hard time that I had to be aware of what God was doing for me. I was asking, I was pleading, I was begging. But if you're not aware when you're asking that there are answers and responses out there, you are missing the amazing divine guidance and love that is yours to have. For instance, I would be walking along the sidewalk and I'd look down and there'd be $100 bill right there because there was a bar right not far from where I was walking, and somebody had dropped $100. And I went, "Thank you, God." And I picked it up and I had $100 to help my daughter and myself with. I went to my bank account, which at that time I only had $25 in it because I had no job and no income, and there would be $1,000 in it. And I would go into the bank and I would ask the teller, I think you deposited somebody's money into my account because I only have $25 in there. And they would go, "Oh, thank you." And they would check and they'd come out and tell me, "No, that's been in there for a long time. You must not be keeping good records." I cannot tell you, Janet, how many times I had that happen to me. And to this day, I still have money that comes into my bank account and I do not know where it comes from, except that God is still, even today, continuing to protect me, take care of me, and bless me for being a friend of his, a child of his or her, because we know it's not just a him. So I'm
Right.
using, our society's terms, but the spirit that is there for us to be connected to is truthful and honest with us when it says, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." And I love that. And I am living proof that there is a spiritual person being whatever you want to see it as or define it as. I call it my higher power because spirit to me is power.
Mhm.
That I am so grateful that helped me through those deep, dark times when there was nobody else to help me, because it was back before there were domestic violence programs. This was back in the very, very beginning of domestic violence. I had never heard of a shelter. I had never heard of an advocate or a counselor because there weren't any back then. So
Right.
my journey through my own personal experience, not only in that, but throughout my lifetime, um, I have been so protected and loved and valued by my higher power that I continually want others to find that in their own life, to develop that in their own life, so that they can feel the healing that comes along with having that as part of trauma recovery. And if you don't trust other people, you can trust that. When
Yeah.
people fail you, that never fails you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you said so many things that I want to go deeper into, but and I know that you're speaking straight to the heart of the listeners that are, tuning in, and maybe you can share with us, because sometimes it feels in the conversations with all the different women that I have counseled and assisted in this same journey. um when we talk about spirit and we talk about the higher power and we talk about God, and it just feels like it's so big that, and what you're referring to, and I know you and I have had so many beautiful conversations about it, and deepening our relationship with God. What are some of the practical ways? Because I know we talk about our spiritual practices, and we have prayer, we have meditation, we have, divine guidance. What are some of the practical ways that you could share with our audience about how they can, if they have this maybe vague relationship that they've established, but they really want to go more intimate and more a deeper relationship with God, source, higher power? What would be some of the practical ways that you went through or that you can articulate and share with us today?
Well, that's a really good point and conversation to have, because I also help people going through their trauma to try to develop that connectedness that's there. And I think there's a couple things that are very, very important. First of all, every morning when I wake up, and I've done this for years, I wake up and thank God for waking me up and for the day that is before me.
Mhm.
I praise my God, and I claim promises that he has given me, that I find very near and dear, and mean something to me. So the first practical thing is take time. You
Mm.
know, there's meditation, there's prayer, there's just going out to a place or a quiet place in your home that you dedicate just for starting your day with God. There's that movie. It was a book first and a movie called The War Room. And as a lady, she made a closet in her home, her prayer room that she called her war room. And when she needed, her own strength and her own um, insights and things that she wanted to help with, she would go in there. So for me, the first practical thing is set aside time every day to build that relationship that you want. Second of all, if your God is not a spiritual being, but a tree or a rock or an animal or whatever it might be to you, you're never going to have a relationship with that person or that being or that tree or rock or whatever without taking time with that, and to have, second of all, communication with it. So having time and then having communication is something that we have to fit into our schedules because we're all really busy. So I begin my day with praise. I end my day with thankfulness and gratitude for all of the lessons I was given during that day, for all of the opportunities to touch somebody else and uplift somebody else during that day, because I believe we all meet each other for reasons and
Mhm.
for seasons. So my connectedness to whoever I'm talking to and working with may not be a forever kind of relationship, but we're meeting each other because I have something to offer them and they have something to offer me. And we don't even know what that is until we've met and connected. For instance, when you and I met, I had no idea it was going to turn into this wonderful relationship that we've had over the years. Somebody just said you need to meet Janet, and get to know her. And I went, oh, I'm all about meeting people because there is in spiritual connectedness, relationships. You get nothing without relationship building, and that means taking time and communicating with somebody. It also means looking again for those things that are happening in the relationship and outside that relationship with your God, your higher power, that says to you, oh, this is good for me. It's positive. It enhances my life. It does not take anything away from it. I'm a better person for the relationship that I have. I look at our relationship. We're better people because we are friends and connected and we have visions and goals in alignment. Well, that's the same with a God. You have communication, you have things in common. You can set goals and have things that you do together in a spiritual sense. Obviously, we look around, we can see God everywhere. God is everywhere. So we don't need to see, oh, I can't see God. No, yeah, you can. Look around, the trees, the mountains, the water, the animals, the blue sky. I always say God is an amazing artist, so creative.
Oh,
Look at the colors that we have, etc. So that awareness and that connectedness and finding out that you have a purpose. That's my next one. What is your purpose for being on this earth? You're here for a reason. And I am so lucky that my trauma experience turned into my understanding what my purpose and passion is. I was to learn from that. I was to grow from that. I was to develop an even deeper sense of love, not only for God, but for myself, to
mm,
where I looked internally and said, what was going on in here that led me into that relationship? I need to look at myself first and my accountability and responsibility. And it's the same in developing that trust after the trauma. You can't have trust with others if you can't trust yourself. So, as you know, I have a saying that says you can't give to others what you don't have. And so, as part of this process, we have to look inward first and have healthy selfishness,
mhm.
meaning we take care of ourselves in a good way, in a healthy way first, and then we pass that on. It's that saying that you hear the flight attendants when you get on the airplane, put your mask on first and then help somebody else. Well, it's the same in building trust and spiritual connectedness. We put our masks on first and then we can share that with other people.
I love that, Kathie. And I've heard it, you've said it several times in so many ways in the morning, starting with thanking God, right? Thank you,
Yes.
God, for this brand new day, right? And then at the end of the day, and then throughout the day. And as we've both heard it said, if the only prayer we ever know is thank you, then we know it all. Because
Yeah.
when we can recognize that all of these things that we are aware of are gifts and blessings from God, then, then we can keep focusing on the abundance in our life and not the scarcity and the fear. And, I love your term healthy selfishness. And you and I talked about this before too, but it's, and I always say love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. But just like you were saying, we can't give anything that we don't have ourselves. So we
Right.
can't love our neighbor unless we love ourselves. And in that journey of of deepening our relationship with God, which is deepening our relationship with our highest self, which is, we're all born in the image and the likeness of God, the
Mhm,
grand overall designing power and presence of all that is.
mhm.
There's That's it, that's in us. And I love that you said, when we can look for our purpose, that, there's that old saying, where you just got to keep on digging. And especially if in going through the trauma that you did, and when you were sharing your story, my heart was just, and I'm sure you get that every time you speak and share, the depth of your experience, and finding um yourself, the depth and the power and the presence of the truth of who you are, and the power that you are, and the power that you wield, um by having all of that aspect of yourself to move into this divine purpose that is your life, right? When we know our soul's purpose, and maybe we're going to inspire, even if we inspire one amazing woman to look at a trauma, whatever the trauma is,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
find the gold in it, so that she can recognize the power that is here to propel her into her purpose, that brings about, you know, um, another way to make the world a
Yeah,
better place. And
yeah.
I would love for you to also share, um, you know, um, I, I know with all of the programs and the trainings and the speaking engagements and all the things that you are of loving service to, and I know we've both shared this before, you know we're both entrepreneurial women, but we work for God, plain and
Yes,
simple. Because
yes.
I'm always tuning in, and I know you tune in and ask God, what is mine to do today? And so if there's some way that we can that you can share with us about some of the ways that you got clarity through your conversations with God, through your asking God, what is mine to do, and who can I help today? And if there's, a way that you can kind of share with us maybe some inspirational ways for some of the audience to kind of look a little deeper into what. Yeah.
Yeah. Great question. I talk to God all through the day, so mine is not just a morning and night. I mean, I have conversation as well, but conversation is only one way if you don't take time to stop and listen. And creating that space in your life to stop and listen, I think, is where we fail. We're great at asking, we're great at telling, we're great at pleading, but we're not great at taking that space and that time to sit and listen for responses, because we'll go, where I'm too busy, I've got children, I've got, family, I've got work, I've got all these things. So everything gets in the way of us taking that time and space to be able to hear with clarity, because we're taking the time and we're not letting anybody distract us, to be able to hear what is being told to us, whether it's through inspiration, whether it's through conscious or unconscious messages that we're getting, whether it is blatantly in our face that God saying, hey, Kathie, wake up here, look at this, kind of thing. um, one of the things that I want to add to this is when we're talking about purpose in our passion in our lives, is that that doesn't mean because we have God and we trust God and God is in our lives that everything is rosy. It's not. God gives us things to challenge us, to help us grow. And so to me, accepting whatever it is that's coming into your life on any given day and to say, okay, this didn't feel good, but what am I to learn from it? Because that's why it was there. It's like, okay, this is and it may be something that keeps repeating itself. I know I work with clients that say, I don't know what I'm doing. It keeps happening on over. Well, what you're not doing is paying attention to why that happened in the first place. So it's coming around again to say to you, look at this. Stop for a minute and look at this. Why is it in my life? Why am I experiencing this? What am I going to do about it? What are some of my options? And then if you don't know, seek advice from somebody. Call your pastor or call a coach or call a therapist or call somebody who can help guide you into opening up yourself to other options you might not have thought about. So when we're talking about building that trust and things to do, start your day and end your day, but during the day, also take those moments. I also read. I love those books on spirituality and building relationship. And one of my favorite authors that makes God very real to me is Max Lucado. And he is in Texas, and his books, my mother introduced me to him. 25 years ago or so. And she said, Kathie, I want you to read this book because it's amazing. And I read it. And I said, "Oh my word, this is bringing God to life. I mean, into real tangible ways that I had never heard anybody else present God." So I love his whole series of books. I also love books on how special I am as a woman in God's creation, what my role as a woman is, and the power that I have as a woman, divinely blessed and divinely created for a purpose and a passion on this earth, and being open to my specialness, which is again part of that learned healthiness that I was talking about. And at the end of the day, as I review every day, because at the end of my day, I review every day. What did I do? I could do better tomorrow. Did I say something that maybe somebody could have understood and taken as a negative? Well, maybe I need to correct that. And depending on what time it is, I can do it then, or I can wait till tomorrow to do it and hope I survive the night to be able, to clarify. But for me, living in the moment, in mindfulness, as the saying goes, every day, at the end of my day, I can go, if I don't wake up in the morning, I have fulfilled my purpose and my passion for this day that my higher power, my God, has given me that day to do and to
Mhm.
fulfill and to be a blessing, not only to myself and my family, but to anybody else that I have come in contact with. So that mindfulness walking in the moments and not going, oh, this is over. If this is overwhelming, then you need to stop and you need to take care of that overwhelmingness and let somebody else or something else wait while you take care of you. That's that healthy selfishness coming
Yes.
in and a moment by moment, day by day. I live one day at a time. I have goals, but I only live one day at a time because I'm not guaranteed tomorrow.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And as you're talking about mindfulness and really acknowledging the importance of presence, you know, and I love Max Machado too. So we'll put some of the things into the show notes so that people can, take things away with this. But also, you know, you're talking about, the power of the woman and recognizing our uniqueness. And so maybe I might say this out loud right now. I would love to have you back at some point, and we can go deep into, the divine feminine power, and
Yes.
really what what ways we can discover that and really declare that for ourselves, in a healthy way that allows us to be our magnificence in this lifetime. Because I know it's been said, and many of us have heard this, that the Dalai Lama said it is the Western woman that is going to save humanity at this
Yes.
time. And so
Yes.
we have to stand in our magnificence in a new way. We have to radiate our brilliance and our beauty and our truth. And so in this final question, I like to ask all of my guests. So you've touched on so many different ways that we can build the muscle of trust within ourselves. And is there some like a definition of trust, or something that you want to leave our audience with, that this is trust after trauma? This is a way that we get to celebrate ways that we can strengthen those muscles within ourselves, our body, mind, and spirit. But if there's something that you want to leave our audience with, and that really elevates a way that we can trust ourselves as God trusts us.
That's such a good question. And as you were asking it of me, I'm trying to think of a very short answer to that, and I can't find one. But to me, trust and faith go hand in hand. I have to have the faith that I am divinely blessed. I have a God in my life, that my purpose and passion for being here, I discover and I work towards and I build within myself so that I can share what I've learned and trust. Again, it goes back to me trusting myself first and trusting God equally as I build the relationship and as I go through my life, and understanding that I may fall and I may fail because I'm a human being, but I can pick myself back up and don't make a goof up, a give up when it comes to trusting.
I love that. I love that. That's so fantastic. And so how can our audience stay connected to you? And what are some of the, do you have some things coming up, or how can we stay connected and really and follow you? And I mean, if you don't already have a copy of her book called Emotional Addiction, A Bittersweet Truth, this we will put a link to this in the show notes. And I know you're working on so many other projects, but how can we stay connected to you?
They can all find me on my website, which is California Cognitive Behavioral Institute. And again, my website is www.theccbi.com, theccbi.com. And they can find what I'm doing. I have a calendar on there, my email's on there. I believe my phone number's on there. So they can reach me any way that they want to. And obviously, they can contact you and your podcast as well to connect if they can't find me any other way. But all they have to do is Google my name. I'll be coming up somewhere on the internet or social media somewhere. But so thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. And in the show notes, her beautiful bio and the ways to stay connected to her will also be in the written form. And Kathie, from my heart to yours, I'm so grateful for this time together, and another thing to thank God for today. And so from my heart to yours, Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to another deep and beautiful conversation next time. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day.
Thank you so much as well.
Thanks, love. Bye for
All
now.
right.